Hello ladies, we about to get introduced to the main crew of this series, guys, and boy am I looking forward to that. But for now, let's talk about this episode of Black Clover, because while it was slow paced, its period, it still delivered pretty well. I'm not necessarily against the pacing anymore. I mean, we're getting like 51 episodes, and the only arc I originally wished for to be adapted was, well, one of the arcs that I can't really mention, but I think it's going to be adapted. It could be wrong, but I think it will. Let's just say that. So what really went down in this chapter was obviously Yuno's match with the Nobleborn and wrapping up the fodder matches that no one cares about, not even Studio Period, I'd say. I mean, they did blitz through them after all. Then we had the last part of the trial, which was obviously getting handpicked, so to speak, where if a captain wants a candidate, they'll raise their hand. And yeah, you can see how pretty much everyone is getting rejected and rejected. These captains don't play around. They only want those with true potential of becoming magic knights. So to be denied simply means that you aren't cut out to be a magic knight at this time. I mean, like, there are many other career options to choose from, so I wouldn't be too bummed out, honestly. And if they're stubborn, I suppose it could just return to the following year or whatever. I mean, some people just have this calling, They will do anything, even if that means wasting their whole life just trying to get into that magic knight squad. Anyway, so before I talk about that final step in the trial, I believe Yuno's match is worth mentioning, given that, he basically wiped that fucker out. So the man that Yuno was fighting used some kind of lightning magic, which created this big ass ball of just, well, electricity, I guess, which seemed very impressive, I would say, to the captains, because Yuno was just standing there, more than likely scared for his life or unsure of what to do. Well, in the eyes of everyone else at least. But when the moment calls for it, we see how Yuno makes quick work out of him by summoning his own magic, that being wind magic in the form of a tornado pretty much. Now, it doesn't have the same level of blitz that Asta had against that annoying fucker that he was fighting. Yuno's attack is more patient and graceful in a way, you could say. He basically just uses the wind to both keep himself from harm as well as eventually making his opponent take off by the strong winds, as a tornado does. I mean, not really surprising when you really think about it. It would be more surprising if his tornado just wouldn't suck him up into the stream. Now, my favorite part about that fight wasn't with Yuno or his opponent, it was actually with Nozel, because in the last episode he seemed like a bit of a dick. Let's be honest, we saw him treat his sister like trash, and don't get me wrong, he still is, but here we saw him actually kinda impressed. Not really out of his mind impressed, but he was surprised by Yuno's abilities, I would say, given that he is in fact not a noble or royalty, and still has that kind of power within him. Most people up until now have been thinking, that Yuno being chosen by the four-leaf clover was a fluke or something, but here even the captains get to witness that his power is in fact the real deal. Okay, so now let's talk about the handpicking of the Magic Knights. The final judgment, if you will. As I said before, most people just get rejected because, well, they aren't what's preferable to any of the squads, or orders, whatever you want to call them. And Yuno, let's start with him, because every single captain was in favor of having Yuno in their ranks. That includes the Silver Eagles, the Golden Dawn, two orders who typically only choose royalty or nobles, people of higher standard as well as magic, not just magic. But in Yuno's case, his magic was just that impressive that even those really picky squads wanted him to join them, because he would be such a great asset to them. And I think that just tells the readers, or in this particular case the watchers, that Yuno has great amounts of mana within him and skill to put that great mana to great use. However, when we get to Asta, things are not looking quite as bright, because unlike Yuno, Asta just doesn't have any magic to speak of. He has a grimoire and a spell, if you could call it that, but it's not really magic. And the captains do not find him to be as appealing because, well, as Yami points out, people don't want to pick someone of who they don't understand the source of their magic power. Because we know that Asta doesn't have any magic. He couldn't fly a broom, he resorted to a physical strike in his match. There's no evident magic usage from him throughout the entire trial. And this is obviously what Yami was referring to. Although he did a great job in his match, for all they know, he was simply using brute force, and that simply put makes him a great knight, just not a magic one. Now, this is something that really got to Asta, because he is seeing how his rival is getting through so easily, and he would do anything to get through this trial and to become a magic knight, because at the end of the day they're both striving for the title of Wizard King. So it's not really a surprise to see Asta almost breaking apart when he notices that none of the captains raised their hand. However, he did leave an impression on more than just one of them, but as I said, his power is a mystery, more or less. But Yami, who is the captain of the Black Bulls, now he did see something within Asta. I mean, he must have, otherwise he wouldn't go so far as to jump down to Asta, explain this to him. I mean, he didn't show the same level of interest in any other candidate that didn't get any votes, so obviously there must have been something in him that made Yami think twice, and that second time he thought, hey, you know what? I'm taking this one with me. And Asta doesn't have the option of declining. I mean, Yami's just standing there all intense and be like, mate, you either come with me or you're dead meat. I mean, he didn't say that literally, but that is probably what he was thinking, and Asta would never turn down the chance to join a magic squad, even if it happened to be the lowest ranked one out of them all, which, believe it or not, it was. As I said in my last review, because I did low-key spoil that he was joining the Black Bulls, and I said that it makes perfect sense for Asta to join the Black Bulls. They are basically the degenerate bunch out of all of the magic squads, and Asta has no magic, so he fits into the group perfectly. The others may have magic, but there must obviously be something, you know, faulty about them, and I won't say anything about that because next week we should be introduced to nearly all of them. I mean, we may get to see them all, not sure, but formal introductions probably not. I'm just looking forward to see my waifu, and you know, I can't really spoil it, but let's just say that she's a charming little one. Wink wink. Anyway, I think I'll end the review here, so let me know what you think about this video or this episode in the comments down below, and as always, if you did, be sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around these parts. This has been your favorite host, Perm, and I'll see you next time.